Welcome to Game and Grains, the whiskey gaming channel. I'm your player one, Richard. And did you know that kangaroos can make whiskey? Well, not exactly, but Australian born owner and master distiller of Larrikin Bourbon Company can. And the folks over at Larrikin were kind enough to send me just a few samples of their products to try. So, as always, I thought I would bring you along for the ride and share with you my thoughts on these samples. So, grab your controllers, pour yourself a dram, and let's get into it. Founded in January of 2023, right outside of Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, the Larrikin Bourbon Company is quickly making its mark on the world of whiskey. Owner and master distiller Greg Keeley is more than just a man who can craft exceptional bourbon. He's a storyteller, veteran, and visionary, redefining what great whiskey can be. Keeley has the unique distinction of serving for both the United States Navy and the Royal Australian Navy, having seen combat in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Having served both his country of birth and the country that he calls home, Keeley carries his service as a true badge of honor. That pride is reflected in every bottle, each bearing the slogan, Veteran Owned, Veteran Distilled. One of the many ways that he is paying homage to those who have fought for our freedom, Keeley has crafted a limited release United States Marine Corps 250th anniversary bottle. They are currently available online, but probably not for long. So I'll be sure to leave a link down in the description. All right, the folks over at Larrikin were generous enough to send us a variety of samples ranging from their small batch up to a single barrel and a variety of different offerings in between. With this being a whiskey walkthrough, we typically unpack the bottle, but to save us a little bit of time, I'm going to just list a graphic over here that has their specs that I was able to find from their website. Now, once these arrived in the mail, I was very excited and immediately dove into some of these, as you can tell. Some have more taken out than others, not because I preferred one over the other, but simply because I tend to be a little heavy-handed with my pours. Now, to save a little bit of time, I've only poured out the top 3 highest proof whiskeys to go over, but I do want to tell you a little bit about these two. So first off, their small batch, which you can find in most stores where Larrikin is available, is about 80 proof, and it is a very easy drinker. You're going to end up getting a lot of the same notes you would with almost any other bourbon that you get out there. Lots of sweet, it's very smooth, caramel, vanillas, light finish, just an all-around easy drinker, little to no burn whatsoever. This one is interesting, at least this specific bottle that I have, which is their American Maple. So they finish these in a maple syrup barrel or cask, and it picks up just a little bit of that maple syrup flavor. Now, with this particular bottle, I do get a little bit of a funk whenever I was sampling it. I believe that that is probably just barrel influence that I'm picking up, but it is a little bit darker in comparison to their small batch. It is a higher proof, 90 versus 80, but this is probably picking up some of that barrel influence. So that might be why it is a little bit darker. But I mentioned that it has a little bit of a funk to it. It's not something that I mind. I actually prefer a little bit of funk with some of my whiskeys. And so out of these two, this one is my favorite. Now, the next one that I'm going to sample is their Bottled and Bond. Obviously, Bottled and Bond is 100 proof. So I'll go ahead and let you know that I don't typically gravitate towards Bottled and Bond, or at least not until recently. The Old Fitz number 7, that is supposed to be a shelfer. I was able to get one of those, tried it, instantly fell in love with it, and so I have been seeking out Bottled and Bond. So we're going to go ahead and give this guy a taste. Now I poured this earlier, swirled it around on the in the glass, and it did still have legs that were slowly creeping down. It is an 8-year bottled in bond, so of course we're hoping that it's going to be a little bit thicker anyway. Not as dark when we compare it to that maple, but with it being bottled in bond, I'm not sure if bottled in bond they water down or not, but anyway. On the nose, so this is very reminiscent of that Old Fitz number 7, or at least to my nose. I'm getting sweetness on it, so caramel notes. There's a faint hint of like vanilla frosting, and then I can't remember the mash bill off the top of my head, or if there's one even there. But I'm getting like a slight grassy note. And as I've been doing more blinds and experiencing more whiskeys, I'm starting to find out that that grassy note that I am picking up, or that what I'm calling grassy, is more of a rye nose to it. So I'm believing that that's probably what it is. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get in on the taste. Cheers. All right. So very similar to that Old Fitz number 7. Again, at least in my opinion, very smooth, very sweet. You get a lot of that vanilla caramel notes to it. It does give you just a slight bit of that rye flavor to it. It does not linger very long. And as it starts to dissipate, you get a slight sweet finish on the tongue. This is really good. So if I had to rank these, at least the first 3, this would be my number 1, the bottled in bond. American Maple would be my number 2, and then the small batch would be my number 3. We'll go ahead and get one more taste, and then I'll let you know the finish. Cheers. Oh yeah, that is so good. I could definitely, if I find this bottle in my area, we'll be looking to buy that bottled in bond. Again, like I said, very sweet forward, slight hint of rye, and then as it starts to dissipate, you get that lingering sweetness just for a little bit sitting on the tongue. I do want to mention, as I always do, my good buddy, the Whiskey Shaman. Earlier this year, I believe it was in January, he was fortunate enough to sit down with Greg Keeley for his podcast and got to ask some questions and got information about Larrikin, where they were before, where they are now, where they plan to go, what exactly Larrikin means, which is actually a really neat Australian slang word. I don't want to ruin it for you, but definitely check out Whiskey Shaman's podcast with Larrikin Bourbon Company. I'll make sure to leave a link down below. Next one that we're going to move on to, this one's actually the highest proof out of the group. The reason being is that this is a single barrel. I'm doing this one next because this is a high wheat rye, and I don't want to get that just overbearing rye flavor before I sample this. So this is their single barrel coming in at 118 proof. So we'll get in on the nose. It is 8 years. In fact, these last 3 bottles are 8 years each. This is definitely darker, probably on par with their maple. It's kind of hard to see with the lighting that I have here. This one might be a slight tinge darker. So on the nose, so I'm getting a lot of the similar or the same nosing notes as I did with the bottled in bond. They're just more prominent. So you're going to get that caramel. You're going to get that very faint hint of vanilla frosting. There is a little slight funk, which I believe is probably that wood influence from the barrel. And then there is that rye that is there on the back end as well. Um, so we'll go ahead and get in on the taste. Cheers. This is my new favorite. This one is very sweet. You're hit with just caramel, vanilla, just all the things that you want in a good bourbon, and then ramped up. As that sweet note starts to dissipate, again, you have that just slight hint of rye that is present, but that sweetness just reigns over that rye. It does linger a lot more so than the bottled and bond. It definitely has some heat to it. As I'm speaking to you now, I am getting a little bit of a, not a burn, but some warmth in the back of my throat. But man, if you can find a single barrel, definitely go with this one. We'll go ahead and get another taste. Again, cheers. That is so good. Again, sweetness, a little bit of rye. As it dissipates, that sweetness just lingers on your tongue for a while. Now, I like to mention my buddies whenever I do my videos. So my other buddy, Major Zero, is actually the reason that I found out about Larrikin. He went to Kentucky, I believe. Him and his brother usually go on some sort of trip every year because their birthdays are right around the same time, and they stopped in at Larrikin. And so that was my first exposure to Larrikin. It was really cool because not only did he get to talk with the mixologist, the bartender, but Greg Keeley came in and did a little interview in that video as well. So just like I do with my buddies Whiskey Shaman, I have a link down below to that video with Major Zero when he went into the actual tasting bar in right outside of Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. So definitely check that out as well. All right. We have the last one, which this is also a single barrel. This is their high wheat rye. This one is almost the highest one. It's coming in at 116.2 proof. Slightly lighter color than this other single barrel. It's kind of hard to tell again in the camera, but definitely noticeable here in person. Again, 8-year difference, or excuse me, 8 years for these three. So we'll go ahead and get in on the nose. So you definitely get that traditional rye smell. There's the faintest hint of mint, almost like a spearmint on the nose. And then it's with it being a high wheat, I'm getting just the faintest bit of a wheat nose to it. Earlier, as I was trying to experiment with these, I did pull in some of my other wheated bottles, the Penelope wheated, 4-grain wheated, the new Bardstown, and a lot of what I'm smelling from those, I'm getting as just like a secondary underlying smell on this particular one. So we'll go ahead and get in on the taste. Cheers. Okay, so just like these other ones, you are going to be met with sweet. It's not the same. Again, I get kind of like a florally flavor to it. As it starts to kind of go down, I'm getting a little bit of mint, almost, I don't want to say licorice, maybe star of anise flavor to it as it starts to dissipate. It lingers for a little bit, but the flavors are great. Again, sweet just like these two, but in a different way. So we'll go in on the taste again. Cheers. Okay, so just like with the bottled and bond, not something that I typically gravitate towards a rye, but things like this are starting to make me change my mind and my preconception of what ryes are. This is very sweet, not super minty. There is definitely a mint flavor there that's on the tongue, but again, that quickly just dissolves. You do get like a faint licorice, star of anise. I do not like black licorice, but this is not anything like that. It's just a little bit there, just very noticeable, or not very noticeable, excuse me. So this one is probably right on par with the single barrel 118. So if I had to rank these in order from my favorite to my least favorite, which all of these are fantastic, it would probably be this single barrel, the 118. Right behind it is going to be this high wheat rye. Not too far behind it, in fact, almost probably tied, as the bottled and bond, the American maple, and the small batch. Now, they do have some really cool other offerings that I have never seen before. Again, I'm still new to the whiskey world, but they had a rosewater bourbon that was released earlier this year. I did not get to sample it, but I've heard that is supposed to be pretty good. They recently released a cigar blend. Haven't had that yet either, but I've heard some good reviews about that as well. So again, Larrikin, I appreciate the samples. If you want to send me a sample of that rose water and that cigar blend, I'd be happy to do a review for you. Before we do the end, the outro, everything, like I mentioned earlier, with Greg being a veteran, they do have a special release 250th anniversary of the U.S. Marine Corps bottle. It's very limited. When this video is coming out, I think they only have a handful of bottles in store. So if you want to try to grab it, I believe they're selling some of them on their website. So I'll be sure to put a link down below for that, as well as their other offerings. So huge thank you again to Larrikin for sending me these really awesome samples. If you want to send me some more, please do. I love all these products, and I highly recommend, if you find one of these in your area, definitely give them a check out, or check them out, especially if it's they're bottled and bond, a single barrel, or this high wheat rye. You can't go wrong with any of them, but these right here out of the 5 are my favorites. So all right, guys, appreciate you sticking to the end. As always, please make sure that you like this video. If you have not already, please be sure to subscribe. I'm working to try to get to 100 subscribers before the end of the year. I am one shy of hitting 50, which is halfway to my goal. And I certainly would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Again, I just would greatly appreciate it. Lastly, if you would leave a comment down below, have you had any of the Larrikin offerings? If so, what is your favorite? Drop it down in the comments. As always, I certainly appreciate you sticking to the end. I'm your favorite player, Richard. Have a good one. And the folks over at Larrikin were kind enough to send me just a few samples to get today, Junior.